Honestly, the entire time I was playing this game, I just had the Indiana Jones theme song going in my head. Dun 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 dun, dun dun dun. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel today. My name is Carly and today we're going to be doing a Kickstarter preview. The game that we're going to be previewing for you today is Ice and Idols from Inside Up Games. I already kind of mentioned this a little bit, but there is a current crowdfunding project going on for this game for Ice and Idols over on Kickstarter right now. So I'll make sure to have all of the information linked in the description below. Having said all of that, as I'm going about talking about this game, this is very much a prototype copy of the game. So rules, components, everything is subject to change. So just make sure to keep that in mind. And again, I just want to reference you over to the crowdfunding campaign that you can check out to kind of see the more finalized concepts of what they have planned. I also wanted to give a quick little shout out to Inside Up Games and thanking them for helping sponsor this video today. Ice and Idols is a pick up and deliver game where you and your fellow archaeologists are traveling to an ancient temple deep in the land of ice and snow. You will be following clues in pursuit of knowledge and glory. As you travel around these temples, you will be finding and collecting idols. Once you collect them, you can bring them to their matching altars to study and increase your understanding of this old and somewhat alien structure. Your time is limited. Will you prioritize unlocking new powers to manipulate the temple, or will you focus on researching the idols to earn more glory than your companions? The choice is yours. How these Kickstarter previews normally run is I start by kind of diving into a general overview of how the game operates and plays. Then once I'm done with that, I jump over into a little bit more of my personal thoughts, what I enjoyed about the game, and who I feel like this game would be good for. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and kind of jump into a kind of really general overview of how this game operates and plays. Now, when you first kind of set up the game, you have to assemble this little temple, these temple ruins that are going to be in the center of the board that everybody can see. The game is really interesting. It comes with all of these little acrylic pieces that have pathways on them, and so you will there has to be a certain one that has 4 kind of entryways on it that goes in the middle, but then the rest of the acrylic tiles you just randomly place on the grid. Now, as you're setting up the game, if pathways don't line up, it's totally fine because this is a game where all of the tiles are going to be kind of shifting and moving throughout it. Every player will collect one of these personal player boards along with a little ring that's going to go right in the upper corner, and then this little disc that's going to go right here. You will also select what character you want to be playing as throughout the game. Each of these characters are unique and they also come with special abilities. We'll get into it more in a little bit, but on your personal player board there are additional powers that you can unlock to make yourself even stronger throughout the game. But when the game first starts, you basically just have your ability that your character is giving you. You'll also create a general supply of the idols and then also this research track. And then depending on your player count, you might have to fill up some of the slots on this research track with cubes just to kind of help mitigate for that player count. Players will then be dealt 2 of these private goal cards that they can try to accomplish throughout the game. They will pick one and then discarding the other, and that's going to be kind of their private secret goal for them to be working on throughout the game. You will also have a little meeple within your player color, and everybody at the beginning of the game starts in the center of this temple. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and kind of jump into what you're actually going to be doing on your turn. The game is played in rounds, starting with the first player and then proceeding clockwise. Every player will take a turn using their action points that are shown on the side of their player board. Once all players have taken a turn, then the current round ends, and then everybody will check to see if the end of the game had been triggered. If not, then simply a new round begins and players continue taking turns again. When you first begin the game, you'll have 5 action points that are unlocked and available for you to use. As the game goes on, you will have opportunities though to unlock more action points. We'll talk about that later, but yes, at the very beginning you start off with 5 that you're able to use. So you might be wondering, well, what can I spend my action points on? That's a great question. Let's get into it. The possible actions that you have available to you are moving, that costs 1 AP point, picking up or placing an idol, which again costs 1 AP point, dropping an idol, which has no cost at all, or using your character ability. The points for these range from 3 to 4 depending on your particular character. Your personal player board is really great at helping remind you on how many points that you've used on your turn. Every single time you use a point, you just slide this little circle down to the down to the corresponding number, so you always know exactly how many points that you spent that round. It's really nice and helpful. It really helped my brain a lot. So let's kind of briefly chat about each of those actions that we just talked about, starting with moving. With movement, it costs 1 AP point, and you get to move to an orthogonally adjacent tile piece, provided that there is a pathway available for you to move on. If there's no pathway lining up for you to be able to do that, then you cannot move onto that tile space. If a pathway tile is on the edge of the temple, the map wraps around to the opposite edge, and the pathway tiles are considered to be orthogonally adjacent at that point. There is no limit to the amount of characters that can be on a particular tile, and also characters do not block you from movement as well. The next action we're going to be talking about is picking up and placing an idol. If you see this little temple board here right in front of me, you actually can see through each of these tile pieces onto the board that is below it. And on the board below it, it is a grid, and there are certain idols and then also certain placement places for those particular idols. When you are over a particular idol, you can choose an action that allows you to pick up that idol. So in this current example, I'm over a pink and a green one. I'm going to choose to pick up a green idol. Now, when you pick up these idols, they are added to your hand. At the beginning of the game, you only have one hand open on your player board, but again, you can unlock another hand, so you can potentially be holding 2 idols at the same time. That was, again, one action to pick up that idol, and now I need to try to maneuver my way around the board to get where I can actually place that green idol. So we're going to fast forward a little bit in time. Let's pretend that I am able to successfully make my way to this little green icon that matches my green idol. Now, again, for 1 AP, I can choose to now place that idol, and I can use that idol to either research or I can gain its power. We're going to start off by talking about researching. If I choose to research with this green idol, I just discard it back to the public supply, and then I take one of my player cubes and I place it on the research track that matches the color of idol that I just dropped off. As the game continues, this research track will get more and more filled, and this is important for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that this is one of the things that triggers the end of the game, is by having all of these research tracks filled. Another reason why placement on this research track is important is regards to your personal goals that I talked about at the beginning of the game. Every player around the table will have these goals, and if at the end of the game you're able to have your research markers in this particular pattern, then you will gain these little extra bonus points at the end of the game, and these can be really a lot of points. This research track is also interesting because you will inherently get points just for having cubes on this research track. There's numbers at the bottom of each one that can shift around depending if you're able to unlock certain abilities. And once a track is completely full, then whatever number at the time is listed below that particular track, it actually will come up here to the top and get locked into place. So in this current example, this blue row, if it was completely filled, this number 6 would come up to the top, and so now every cube that is in this blue track will be worth 6 points at the end of the game. Again, you can manipulate it a little bit, kind of help swing it in your favor by unlocking certain abilities that allow you to shift or move the numbers that are here at the bottom of the tracks. So that's one thing that you can do with your idols, or you can choose to gain idol power. So we're going to go back in time here for a second and pretend that instead of researching with this little green idol, I'm actually going to gain idol power. Now at the top of everybody's player board, there is a spot that holds one of each idol that's found in the game. And when you choose to gain that idol power, you will pick up that idol and fill that slot. Once that slot is filled, it actually will unlock the ability that is shown underneath. So in this current example, if I was playing here and I just placed my green idol, now for 2 AP on my turn, I can choose to rotate this temple ruins. I can rotate it whatever direction I want, but I can do that now for 2 AP. So again, it makes me more powerful as the game goes on. And if you are able to collect all of the idols by the end of the game, you get an additional 8 points that will help go towards your final score. The abilities that these idols give you are really beneficial. So one of them allows you to permanently get 1 AP now every time. So instead of having 5 AP every round, you actually permanently will have now 6 that you can use. We already mentioned how one of them allows you to rotate the board 90 degrees, which is such an amazing ability. One of them allows you to rotate, again, 90 degrees the particular tile that you are on at that time. Some allow you to shift rows or columns that your person is on. And then your final idol piece actually unlocks your second hand. So that's what allows you to carry 2 idols at a time instead of 1. We talked about moving, we talked about picking up and placing idols. The other action that you can choose to do is dropping an idol. So if you are holding on to one that you kind of realize you don't need anymore, you can just choose to discard it. That costs no AP to do that, which is nice. And then the last thing that you can choose to do is use your character abilities. The abilities in all these characters are very, very, very useful, and they were honestly one of my favorite things to do in this game. So when it is your turn and you fully used all of your AP, then you just reset this little gold circle all the way up to the top, indicating that you're done with your turn, and then the next player will go. Now there's a couple more things that I wanted to mention just in regards to gameplay. The first thing I want to talk about is this research track. Every location on this research track kind of unlocks a little something, kind of like a little bonus for you. Some of these locations allow you to shift the points that are at the bottom of the research track. Some just straight up give you end game points, but one of them is actually triggering this event deck. When that happens, players will just take the top card, flip it over, and then resolve whatever is shown. Lots of these cards kind of manipulate what's going on in this main center area. For example, the one I just flipped over is collapse. So that means if I was the starting player and my color was orange, then based on where my person is, the square to the right of them would actually collapse and fall off the board. And so as the game goes on, more and more of these type of events could happen. If I were to flip over the next one, then it looks like another square would actually be removed from the board. If I flipped over another one, it looks like everything on the current row that I'm in, because I'm the player that flipped over this card, would shift down 1. So as the game goes on, it kind of gets harder and harder to actually get to the spots that you need to, because places are collapsing or things are moving. And on top of that, other players are also constantly moving and kind of changing the ice. The ice is just always kind of shifting in this ancient temple. So play will keep going round and round like this, with players using up all their AP, or as much AP as they are able to on their turns, kind of shifting, going around this board, picking up idols, dropping them off, and trying to basically get the most points. Now the end of the game is triggered in one of 2 ways. Either every spot on the research track is full, or once a player has placed their 10th research marker. Players will then add up victory points from the following. For each research marker placed on the research track, earn points as shown by the victory point token on the corresponding column, regardless of whether the token is above or below the track. For each research marker placed on a space with a VP bonus 1, 2, or 3, earn the points indicated. Players who've gained the powers of all 5 idols will earn an additional 8 VP. Players will then reveal their secret key cards and earn the indicated VP if they match the pattern blueprint on their own card. And then whoever has the highest score wins. Hopefully that overview kind of helps clear up any questions you might have in regards to the gameplay of this game, kind of help shed some light on how it operates. But we're going to go ahead and kind of pivot a little bit, and we're going to chat about everything that I enjoyed about this game and who I feel like this game would be good for. I want to start off by saying that I really enjoy pick up and deliver games. I think it is a very underutilized mechanism found in games now, and so every single time I hear about a game being pick up and deliver game, I'm like, you know what, like, I'm interested. And so when Inside Up Games reached out to me, I was initially drawn in just based on the fact that this was going to be a pick up and deliver game. And then once I got the game, set it up, and we started playing, I was obsessed with the fact this is like a pick up and deliver game, and then you are also trying to work around the puzzle of shifting this board and the board constantly changing. And I love how it's open information. Like, I know exactly where my friends are trying to get to. I can see that, you know, Kim has a pink idol. I know she needs to go to this particular location. What can I do to mess her up and prevent her from dropping it off before I can drop it off first to claim this particular spot, which then unlocks that ability for me. It really was really interesting. Because the board is always shifting, it's not a game that you really can plan like, okay, I want to do this and this and this and this. However, even though I was unable to plan super far ahead because the board was always changing, I was always invested on what was happening during everybody else's turn, because you see people's thought process and you see them again picking up idols, or you kind of see what they're going for, and you need to prepare yourself and try your best because you know they're always going to swing stuff in that favor. So there's some times where Kim is picking up a pink idol, so I know she's going to go to pink. So if I stick by Kim long enough, can I also drop off mine before hers, or right before she is able to, if I know that she's going in that direction, she's going to be pushing or pulling tiles towards that direction. Can I kind of hop on and kind of ride that wagon a little bit along with her? I just really liked the interaction that this board brought. Powers and abilities is like one of my favorite things in games. Like, always give me more powers and abilities. Always, always, always. And I love how at the beginning of the game, you start off immediately having an ability that's different from everybody else. And honestly, every single character in this game, their ability felt needed. Like, it felt like it was a good ability. It wasn't like, oh, these two are really good and these two are like, eh. No, every single ability in this game was useful and was needed. So it was nice that right at the beginning of the game you have that unique ability, but then as the game progresses, you are able to unlock more and more, and you're able to do more and more and more, and it really kind of rushes the end game because everybody else is equally getting powerful, and everybody else all of a sudden is able to shift the board, so the board just kind of gets more chaotic and more crazy as the game goes on. I also loved just the mechanism of just the AP, and I loved how the side of the board, it was so easy to track that and kind of manage that. I always tend to kind of get numbers mixed up in my head, so I always appreciate when games have just these little extra helps. But something else that I felt like was interesting was the AP. I don't even know how to describe it, but like I didn't feel like things were overtly expensive or overtly unexpensive. Like, everything in regards to how much you need to spend in order to perform those actions, it felt really well balanced. It never felt like, oh, I have so much AP, I don't know what to do with it. Or on the other side, it's like, oh, it felt so restrictive, I feel like I can never do anything on my turn. Like, it really hit that sweet spot for me. Another thing is, like, this is a very approachable game. It was way more approachable than I was kind of anticipating it being. This is definitely a game that you could take out with families. I mean, this is definitely a family weight game. I would feel totally comfortable playing this. I mean, I do feel totally comfortable playing this with my daughter, with Addie. She totally got it. Something that I liked a lot more than I was anticipating liking it too were these like gold cards that you got. And the reason why I like these is because it adds a really interesting puzzle to the research tracks. I feel like most research tracks, it's like, okay, I need to move up here so that I can get this ability, or I just need to move up on the purple research track or whatnot. Like, it really doesn't really matter when you place, but in this game, it matters when you place, like timing wise, it matters when you place onto the research track. Because if I'm trying to get this shape and I am really close to it, I just need to place a pink one 2 away from me right now. If I were to place on the pink research track right now, then I wouldn't complete my little thing. So you need to be strategically actually holding back sometimes when you actually place your idols, and wait for somebody else around the table to, like, if I think that so-and-so is pink and she's also going for to drop off her pink idol right now, I actually might pull back a little bit, allow her to then place her cube on the research track, so then I can jump in right after and snag that next spot before somebody else can. So it makes the research track really interesting. It makes it feel like different from most research tracks that I've played, especially like when 2 people are vying for the same spot. And then you're like, okay, like, who can get there first? Or like trying, honestly, I just really liked the interaction, and I really like that they thought to add this. So let's chat a little bit about who I think this game would be good for. I think if you inherently enjoy pick up and deliver games, I think this is definitely one that you should check out. This is definitely one that has just a really good, again, pick up and deliver, really high interaction, kind of puzzly movement game. So if you like you know, constantly having the board shift and trying to kind of like figure out puzzles on the fly and trying to figure out the most efficient way to move stuff or swing, or you need to swing the board 90 degrees to try to swing somebody away from the spot that they really want. All of that kind of level of interaction is found in this game. If you also like the build of kind of leveling up your character and getting more and more powerful and being able to kind of unlock more and more abilities as the game goes on, that's also something that's very heavily present in here. And I also think if you're just looking for like a really fun, high interaction game for your family, I think that this would be a great one to look into. Again, I'm going to put everything in the description below for this game, all of the links to all the information. So if you are interested in this game, please hit those links below and head over to the current crowdfunding project for this game to see if it would be a good fit for you. Alright, so that rounds out our Kickstarter preview for Ice and Idols. Again, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Inside Up Games for helping sponsor this video today. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it means so much if you could do that. It really helps support us in everything that we're doing over here. But until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later.